be great. That would be great. Good. What else? Yes, Tejas, please.
Um, I was on a walk today, and I thought, and I think I thought this before and shared this before, but came back, and it's that this practice has a striking similarity to the idea of forgiveness in a very sort of pure sense, not in a sort of typical day to day something bad happens. I mean that's applicable too, but when I feel like when we're meditating or um, just kind of sitting in this awareness and allowing things to be as they are, that really empowers sort of and reinforces when we actually forgive or when we actually think of forgiveness to be more of this sort of, oh, nothing, actually nothing even happened, that sort of forgiveness.
Tejas, you you continue to just blow me away with your penetrating insight into this stuff. It's really wonderful. Um, we can describe the entire practice as a practice of forgiveness. The entire practice. And but it's forgiveness in the truth, in the deepest sense of it, because people often, when they talk about forgiveness, they're talking about it's in a kind of a very superficial. It's left on the level of just some feeling or some thinking or some attitude, and that's way too superficial to be significant to change our lives. Okay. And you see this in, for instance, when you hear when people in various situations ask someone else for forgiveness. You say, "Will you forgive me for this?" Or sometimes you see, you hear about some person who committed a crime and is now trying to get their life in order, and that I pay a lot of attention to that. That I do work with prisoners, and sometimes they'll ask the victim for forgiveness or ask the victim's family for forgiveness, and that always strikes me as no, no. Forgiveness is not for the person being forgiven. That's none of their business. Forgiveness is for the person who is forgiving. Because, I mean, look what happens. Pay attention. Roll the tape of situations you've been in when you've felt injured by someone. When you're carrying resentment, the Dalai Lama talked about this once. He said, you're like you're lying awake at night, losing sleep over the thing that your old boyfriend or girlfriend did to you years ago. Meanwhile, they've forgotten it. They're sleeping like a baby. Right? So this is all about the person who will be doing the forgiving. It's for ourselves because when we forgive, what we're doing is and we think, oh, forgiving is such a noble thing. No, it's not. Forgiving is, in this deep sense, is skillful means. It's a skillful means of living a life that's more awake and happy and expansive, rather than walking around seething in these toxins, right? And it's toxic when you're walking around with that resentment. But now, how can we do this? See, because and sometimes people who do understand that much well, they go, okay, so I'm going to forgive. I'm gonna forgive this thing if it kills me. All right. So it's trying to do it on the level of attitude, which is still they've got the right idea now, but the method is still not deep enough. Now, what happens when we meditate? We're sitting there, there's some settling down, and then the the cement truck stops on our block and is sitting there with his motor idling, and we start going, oh gee, I was so nice and settled. Now here's this thing, this loud, really irritating sound, and you can do that, and you do that for a while, and maybe you mentally try to make it stop. Go away, truck, go away. Right? How many times we even forget about meditation? How many times you've been stuck in traffic, right? Come on, clear away, traffic, clear away, right? You've been doing that for a lifetime. How's it working for you? Right? It doesn't work. This is forgiveness. Forgiving the traffic is seeing that it's a given. It's a given. We can't do anything about it. The cement truck is there. It's a given. It's up to, we can't make it go away, but there is something we can do. We can continue to knock our head against the situation of the presence of the cement truck, or we can find a more skillful way to be with it, which is just that, be with it. Discover that we can just be without it, or just be with it. And then the next thing. Okay, now I'm just one of the most, and sometimes this stuff, it just happens routinely, and sometimes you'll like kind of get it so dramatically that it stays with you. And this one happened to me years ago when I still lived in New Jersey, and I was going into the city for something, and taking the New Jersey Transit train where you have to change trains in Newark. Right. And I always used to think, oh man, what a drag that, I could just meditate the whole way, but I got to change trains in Newark and there's no place to sit down and it's crowded and all that, and eventually I realized I can stand and just be.
What
right?
was that?
I can.
That might be Larkin's piece.
Someone.
No, there's no butt on it.
Someone mute, please. Someone mute. So, thank you. Actually, that was a good example, right? There's that sound. There it is. But in this case, we're conducting business here, so we need to hear each other. So I discovered, I can sit with my eyes closed on a train and just be, or I can be standing on the platform being jostled by other people and just be with that. That's a big discovery. And also on a New Jersey Transit train, one time I sit down, I'm all settled, I'm going to do my afternoon meditation, and then at the next stop, a couple of 16-year-old girls get on, and they get in the seat right behind me, and they're on there. There's one of them is on her cell, and she's having a grand time with this loud, gossipy conversation with their friend. And some people, when they talk on the phone, they seem to forget they have a telephone. They think it's a megaphone. They have to shout. And I'm, and then suddenly it's just like, I just got it clearly. I went, oh, this is the second noble truth. This is how the origin of suffering. And what the Buddha taught was not the origin of suffering is the girl yakking on the cell phone behind me. The origin of suffering is me resisting it. The origin of suffering is me knocking my head against it. And I just let go, and oh, bliss. Thank you, 16-year-old girl, for shouting on your cell phone, so that I can discover that I can just be with that. That's forgiveness. Right? So yeah, wonderful insight.
Thank you that sums it up.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, thank you.